Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be carving a little bit of lino and just sort of like talking through my process and everything. I thought that it might be kind of useful just to talk through what I'm doing, and I also have a couple of questions to answer. So I'm going to start with a completely new block today. I'm going to be using the SD grey lino. This is like my standard go-to lino. It's honestly one of my favourites and it works really well in my printing press. So I'm just using an A5 piece. I got them in like a big pack from Hand Printed UK, but you can also buy these ones from Cas Art and on Amazon and loads of different places like that. Also, loads of like small art shops sell these as well, so it would be really good to check those out if you can. So I like to start off by painting the lino, whether that's with acrylic paint or just any kind of paint, and I always get so many questions about why I do this. So the reason why I do this is just so I can see a little bit better where I've carved and where I'm going to carve, because when you carve out the lino it's grey underneath, so if you've painted the top surface layer a different colour it's just really easy to see your design. So today I'm going to be using some of the Winsor & Newton drawing ink to do this. I mentioned this in my last video. I got the blue, I got the cobalt blue and I really don't like it, so I'm just going to use it for this and see how it works. The drawing ink does tend to stick to the lino really well, I've found anyways. So I can't remember if I mentioned, but this is the Winsor & Newton brand, so I'm just going to paint a really thin layer over the whole of my lino. It's really good to use something like acrylic paint or drawing ink that's not going to wash off the lino or come off of the lino when you print it. So acrylic paint just sticks to the lino really well. It doesn't come off in the ink when you do print the lino or anything like that, and the same with drawing ink, so that's why I find that this works really well for me. So one of the questions that I had was, why did you choose lino printing as your main art hobby, and why is it your favourite medium? So I kind of fell into lino printing a little bit by accident. I didn't have like much previous experience of lino printing, and when I was in my first year of uni over the summer I was like going to go home from uni, and I decided that I wanted to print some tote bags and try and sell them over the summer. So I went into like my local Cas Art and they have like a lino printing kit which is about £20 I think. So I decided to buy that because my idea was to originally print on some tote bags, because I've always been really into like making my own clothes, painting on clothes and things like that. So I really wanted to make a couple of tote bags, and I had like heard about screen printing and stuff, but I didn't think it would be super easy for me to do from home. So I settled on lino printing because I thought that would be like much easier to do. So I just bought the kit, and in the kit there was loads of different kinds of lino and things like that for me to try out. It came with like a roller and a palette and some ink, which was honestly like not the best quality, but it's totally fine for starting out because I didn't want to spend loads of money. So after I had like practiced a little bit with the lino, I decided I was then going to print on some tote bags, and they turned out like okay. Honestly, they weren't the best, and I was using at the start like screen printing ink because I just didn't want to spend any money on like expensive lino printing inks and things like the Speedball one that I use at the moment. So I just kind of started lino printing like that, and I did it just like the whole summer as well as working a part-time job in a gift shop, and it was honestly like just the funnest thing. I just really enjoyed it. And I started my Instagram, but it was called something different back then. It wasn't called Iceandsea. So I like followed loads and loads of different people who did lino printing on Instagram, and I was super inspired. There was a couple of accounts that really inspired me to start with, and it was just like a really nice kind of hobby to have over the summer. I did also like sell a couple of my prints in like a local shop. I have kind of told this story so many times I feel like, but it's just good to recap as to like how I got into it and things. And then when I went back to uni I just carried on because I just really loved printmaking. I'd kind of fallen in love with it. I just really like the idea that you can create like multiple prints from one lino block rather than just a painting which is an individual one. Of course you can make digital prints of that and things, but I just really liked printing and the whole medium itself. I love working with inks, mixing different colours, and I feel like you can really push printmaking and it can become like super abstract and things, which I really like as well. So that's probably kind of why it's my favourite hobby. I just really enjoy it. I find it super therapeutic carving the lino, and yeah, I just really enjoy it. And the reason that it is my favourite medium is probably because you can make like multiple copies of one design, and I just really like working with inks and putting things through the press, and I really like how it's not always perfect and each print is unique because it's been like hand printed rather than just like digital copies and things. I just really like that. I also quite like how printmaking is like a super old art form, and I just really like the history about it and everything. I just think it's really nice. It's a really nice medium. It's kind of like more of like a slow process because it takes such a long time to carve the lino and print all of the prints. Digital printing or like making things on Procreate is a lot faster, it's a lot easier to clean up, and there is like so much less mess. So I also really like the messy aspect of it and things like that, so I guess that's why it's my favourite medium. I'm just waiting for this to dry. The drawing ink does take a little bit longer to dry than acrylic paint, but I just don't want to waste any more acrylic paint when I've got this drawing ink that I don't like that I can use up. So as you can see, well, to be fair, I don't know how well you can see, but I've just painted like a super thin layer of the ink onto my lino. It doesn't have to be perfect or anything because you don't really need it. I mean, I'm going to probably carve most of this away anyways, but I'm just going to wait for this to dry, and then I'm going to paint on top in more drawing ink, and I'm going to use a black for that, and that's going to be my design. So now I'm just going to go in with some of the Winsor & Newton drawing ink. The reason why I really like to use drawing ink is just because it's so free and I can like paint onto the straight onto the lino. I don't have to trace it. I'm quite impatient, so this I find is a little bit quicker than tracing onto the lino, and I also really like how the prints turn out when they kind of look like they've been painted and things. It's just something that I personally really like, and I really like it for the style of my prints and what I'm going for and things. I first learned about this through a YouTube video I was watching. It was quite recently actually, I think it was just before Christmas. I was watching someone else's YouTube video on like how to lino print, and they used drawing ink, and I had never ever heard of that before, and I really wanted to give it a go just because I really enjoy painting anyways, and I thought that this would be the perfect way to like combine both of the mediums, and I just really like how it turns out. I think it makes my prints look really nice, and just kind of like it has that free, like more of like a free element than if I just traced the design, which was something I used to do all the time. I used to plan my designs so much. It would be like days and days of planning and measuring, and I much prefer doing this just because I feel like it's much more my style, and the ideas can just like flow from my mind onto the lino rather than having to think about it too much. So the design that I'm going for is really kind of similar to one that I painted in, I think it was in my like 7-day art challenge video thing that I did. I can't remember what I called it, just because I really like that, and I think that it would work super well as a lino print. So I'm just doing something similar. I'm kind of just recalling it from memory at the moment because I can't remember exactly what I did, but I just really like the kind of composition of that and how the kind of just how the layout of the plants looked and things. So I'm just going to try and do something a little bit similar to that. So another question that I got was, where do you find inspiration? And I literally take inspiration from so many different places. At the moment, I'm really inspired by like the thought of spring. I honestly can't wait for spring and summer. The whole shop update that I did last week was inspired by spring. All of the prints are like super floral. There's loads of plants and things. I just really love like painting plants onto lino. That's honestly my favourite. That's what I'm doing today. I just find so much inspiration from nature. I really enjoy painting flowers and things. I love, like, my favourite way to find inspiration is to go on a walk. I always take my phone with me and I take loads of photos of different plants and flowers and things, and I like to then use those as kind of reference photos, but also kind of adapt the plants so they kind of don't look super real in a way. And you might have noticed as well in some of my prints or like paintings and things, I always draw like the same set of plants and vines just because I really like how they look, and I just kind of use them from my mind. I have like a set of things I just like to draw and paint, so I generally do the same ones over and over. Instagram's such a good place to find inspiration, and it can be super motivating for me just seeing other people carving lino and making prints and things. I really like to just have a look at what other people are up to, and I find that really motivating and inspiring as well. I also think it's good to sometimes like just take a little break just so you can like regain some inspiration. I always find like this really helps me because sometimes I can get like super burnt out and then I don't feel inspired and I've got really bad art block and things. So sometimes just taking a break from lino printing or painting and drawing in general, I find can really help me. So the past week I haven't really done any printing or any carving or anything, but then today I woke up and I was super inspired to do this lino block today and film this video. So I think it's like definitely a balance. So I do think it's definitely a balance of trying to like keep motivated and keep creating art, because obviously like practice makes perfect and things, but it's also really important to just like give yourself a break and take some time away, because then you can come back feeling really refreshed. And I just find that that works really well for me as well, because last week I did my like 7-day art challenge and things, and I was feeling like slightly burnt out from that, just in terms of like creativity. So this week I just haven't really done very much and I haven't pushed myself, and that's totally fine, because today I feel super motivated and I just feel like I had some ideas for this lino block and what I wanted to create and things like that. So it's definitely good to like take breaks and things, and if you're not feeling inspired, don't always go and like look for inspiration, because sometimes it does come, like it will just come to you, and yeah, I don't really know. So sorry, I went off on like a massive tangent there, but I mainly find inspiration from nature, or like even just spending time in nature just to like clear my head and things. I find helps me to think more clearly about my artwork and things like that as well. Also just taking so many photos of leaves and plants and flowers and things. Before Christmas I did actually go to the botanical gardens near where I live, and I found that so inspiring. I really want to go again. Sorry if the camera moved ever so slightly, my memory card was full, so I just needed to delete some things. But now this is fully dry and I am ready to start carving. I'm really pleased with the design. It's not like, I don't think it's as good as the one that I did last week, but I do really like it. I think it'll make a cute little lino block. Whenever I carve I use my Pfeil tools, and I have set C. I really like them. I've had them since 2019 and they're literally just perfect. And a question that I get all the time is, what do you use to sharpen your lino tools? So I use these things called slipstones. I have the Pfeil slipstones. I really am not sure whether I'm saying this right, so I apologise if I'm saying it wrong. But I have the Pfeil slipstones, and they are just like sharpening stones that I use to sharpen them. I watched like a YouTube video on how to sharpen them. I still don't know if I'm doing it right, but it seems to work okay for me. I'm not going to talk about how I sharpen them because I don't know if I'm doing it the right way, and I don't want to like get it wrong and have someone damage their tools because of it. But I do know that Heather Goldie Gallery has a really quick informative video on how to sharpen lino tools using the Xcut slip strop, which is really similar to the stones that I have, so I will leave that linked below if you did want to find out more information on how to sharpen your lino tools. But I just use the Pfeil slipstones, I think they're called, and I have like a little set of them, and there's different sizes for each of the tools and things. But now I'm just going to start carving, and I really like to outline with the smallest lino tool that I've got, and this is a really tiny U-gouge tool. It's the smallest one in the set, and it's probably one of my favourites. It's just really good for detail and outlining of things. So I like to outline my design with a really small tool. I just find that this is good for like accuracy and detail, and then when I'm carving away the background lino, which I'll be doing quite a lot on this design because the design is only like in the middle, and then all of this around is background lino, so I like to just outline like every leaf, just because I find it gives a really sharp, crisp print, and that's just the best way that I found of doing it. And it means that I'm not going to go in with like a tool that's too big and take a chunk out of my design or anything. I also had a couple of questions about my shop update, and one of them was, what was your favourite print from the collection? So if you don't know, last weekend I launched my new little print collection, and it's called the Bloom collection, just because all of the prints are of like spring flowers and inspired by the idea of spring and things. So I had quite a few new prints in that collection. I think the Bloom print is probably definitely one of my favourites. I also really like the mushroom print in the purple and blue gradient. I just really like that, and I remember For such a long time I was just so set on that it would only look good in black ink, but I really, really like it. I really like how it turned out, and it's now definitely one of my favourites. I also had a question on how long it takes me to prepare for a shop update, and honestly, like, I don't know how long it takes to exactly prepare, because for this one I've been printing things since Christmas, so that has taken me like such a long time to do, but I was doing it super slow and I wasn't really rushing or anything. But the general preparation, once I've got everything printed, it takes me such a long time to list everything on Etsy. I would say it probably takes me like at least like 4 hours to list everything on Etsy. I'm so slow with it. It takes me such a long time to take the pictures and edit the pictures and things, because I'm just not the best at it really. I know some people are really good at it and it doesn't take them very long at all, but it takes me honestly such a long time. Like, I don't know why or like how much I procrastinate, but so last week I decided to do the shop update on Wednesday, and then I did the shop update on Sunday, but it was like working full days on that. I had a couple of days off work and it literally was like 4 full days of work to prepare for the shop update. I think it's quite a long time. I mean, I was super, like, I only planned to do it because I did have some time off work, because otherwise I would have been having to juggle my job and doing that, and that would have taken me a lot longer. It would have probably taken like a full week or something. So the short answer is, like, I don't know how long it takes me to prepare, but quite a long time, because I'm such a procrastinator and I just like to do things really, really slowly and take my time with them and not rush. Because in the past I've definitely rushed taking the photos and doing the Etsy listings, and they just looked really, really bad. Like, I look back at some of my Etsy listings and I'm like, what was I doing? Like, they just look so awful. And no wonder I wasn't selling anything, because the pictures were so bad. So now I've outlined a little bit of the design, I'm going to go in with a slightly bigger U-gouge tool and just carve away some more of the background lino. I like to do it in kind of sections, and like work through each section and get the design like finished and then move on to the next section, if that makes sense. So that's why I'm just going to go all ahead and carve away some of the background lino now. I like to do this as well just because I'm so impatient and I like to see what the design looks like and how it's coming along. I don't like to outline everything and then carve away all the background lino, because I do find that's kind of boring, and I like to switch it up a little bit. Because definitely my favourite part is like scooping out massive bits of background lino. I feel like so many people like that, but that for me is like the most therapeutic bit. I just absolutely love it. So for most of this design I am going to be using U-gouges, just because there isn't too much detail and I don't need to get a really deep cut, so I'm not going to use any of my V-gouge tools. The U-gouges will just be fine, and I'm using the really, really tiny U-gouge for detail. I would sometimes on a bigger block use the small V-gouge for detail if I need it to be a little bit deeper, or I think that the lines are going to fill with ink and things. I would then use the V-gouge just because it gets a little bit of a deeper cut. So I've now carved away this really tiny little section here, and I'm going to go in with an even bigger U-gouge just to get rid of some of this background lino, so I can show you guys and kind of talk through why I like to do this. So for scooping out the background lino, I use the biggest tool that I have, which is again a U-gouge tool. This bit is honestly my favourite. I just love to do this, and I like to do it in little sections just so that I don't get bored and I can switch up, because I find that carving out the details is not as fun for me personally. It's also really important when you're using this tool to cut away from your hands. I like to put my hand over the top. I don't know how well you'll be able to see, but I like to put my hand over the top and then carve like through the middle of it, so if the tool slips it's not going to go into my hand. I also really like to use a big U-gouge tool to carve away the background lino, because you can get quite a deep cut. Something else that I really like about the Pfeil tools is they work super well for carving away the lino in a really clean way. The edges aren't like jagged or anything, you can get a super clean cut. And I find that with like some of the cheaper tools like the SD tool, the lines are so jagged that you get, and it doesn't create a clean cut on the lino and things, so that's why I like massively prefer these. These are definitely my favourite tools, I love them. And I do talk about them in honestly like every single video, but I still get quite a few questions, so I feel like it's useful to mention them again, just in case anyone doesn't know. So I've only carved out this section here, but you can see how long it takes. It does take a really long time, and you do have to be super patient with lino carving just because it takes such a long time and it's quite like a process. But I like to think of it as a process rather than just like working towards the end result, because the artwork is created through the process and things, which is something that I really like about printmaking, is like the whole process and how it's made and everything. So I did add these little stars onto the design, but I don't really like them, so I think I'm just going to carve them away. I'm not going to carve them out because I'm not really feeling them. I don't think they work with the design too well. That's also something else that I really like about lino, and something that I like to do is I like to kind of edit the design as I'm carving it and carve away bits that I've added, or like add little bits while I'm carving. And I just really like that because the process is so slow, you can be constantly like revising the work and adding new bits or taking bits away to create something that you're happy with. So I'm just going to remove the stars when I get to them because I'm not entirely happy with them, and that's just something else that I really like, because I feel like as soon as I've like painted the design or drawn the design, it's not completely finished, and that's not what it will end up looking like, because I always like to like change it and edit it while I'm carving. So this is how I like to kind of work in sections. So this bit's done, and then I'm going to move on to the middle bit and then the end bit, and that's just personally how I like to do it, because I like to switch up which carving tools I'm using and which bits I'm carving out, because I do find as well that using the bigger tool to carve away the background lino can be quite like tiring on your wrists and on your fingers and things. So I do like to switch up just to give my hands a little bit of a break. But that is all of the carving that I'm going to do today, just because otherwise this video is honestly going to be so long. But I really hope that this was helpful. If you do have any questions or anything, please leave them in the comments below. I hope that it was interesting as well to see me kind of carving lino in like a bit more real time. Hopefully there'll be like less edits and things, but I will definitely have to edit this down because honestly it's going to be so long otherwise. But I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you very soon with a new one.